So for today's Animal Spotlight, I wanted to try something new. So we're going to talk about the first ever mammal that we've done a spotlight on. And obviously you know what it is because you clicked on the thumbnail. But spoiler alert, since I don't actually have a porcupine, we're not going to have one here on the table with me as I talk about it. But I got plenty of footage from a recent visit with one, so hopefully that keeps you entertained. Porcupines are a very popular mammal, and they put all of their points in the defense stat, which has led them to be a very infamous animal that people and predators don't want to mess with. So breaking the porcupine down, they're in the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Chordata, the class Mammalia, and then they're in the order Rodentia, which are a bunch of mammals that have these really big teeth at the front. They need to always chew on things to wear them down. The teeth never stop growing, and like you can see with this beaver skull here. And this includes the beaver, includes mice, rats, porcupines, capybara. It includes a lot of animals. They're in the family Arethazoon today, which are the large New World arboreal porcupines, and they have their very well-known spiny defensive coverings. And then lastly, they're in the genus Arethazoon, which is actually the North American porcupine is the sole member of this genus, and there's actually 7 recognized subspecies, and it's a large arboreal rodent. It's actually the second largest rodent in all of North America after the beaver. They were first described in 1758, and they are a truly bizarre mammal. In fact, the name porcupine comes from the old French word porc espin, which means spine hog. They're short and stocky, but they are dense, with a large male able to hit up to 40 pounds in weight and 4 feet in length from nose to tail tip. And they have this dark brown to blackish coloration with white highlights. The most distinguishing feature of the porcupine, though, is its body that's covered in more than 30,000 quills. And the only safe places on the porcupine are its face, its feet, and its underbelly. And these quills are also, they're normally laying flattened down against the porcupine. They're not up all the time, but when they feel threatened, they will raise them up. And all of these quills, all 30,000 of them, they have little barbs on the end of their quills so that whenever they get lodged in something, they'll actually detach and they'll stay lodged in the predator or their attacker. Males and females, they visually look the same. They have the same number of quills. It's just like I said, the males can get really large, maxing out like 40 pounds, whereas the females usually hit like 20, maybe 25. These porcupines are found literally across the entirety of northern North America, and their range also extends down across western North America through the United States and into northern Mexico, with a few isolated pockets. And the porcupines that I'm showing you in this video and also live in my backyard, I can go hiking and find these in my woods. These guys, this is the southernmost reaches of their population on this coast. They are a very northern mammal. They live in coniferous and mixed forests, and they've adapted pretty well to human expansion, and also have adapted very well to some very unforgiving environments such as tundra and Arctic shrublands that most other animals can't survive in. Courting in porcupines is slightly bizarre. They are solitary mammals, but they come together when it's time to breed and mate. And what the male does, he finds a tree where a female's sleeping at the top of. He sits on the lowest branch and gatekeeps that tree, stopping other males from climbing up it. When she is ready to mate, she'll climb down to the ground, and the male that has successfully defended the tree from the other males gets to climb down. They mate, she climbs back up the tree, and he goes on his way. And this question comes up a lot, but when they're mating, they both flatten their quills completely against their body so that there's no accidental stabbings during the festivities. The female will be pregnant for about 200 days, and when she gives birth, it's just going to be to a lone baby porcupine. And this baby porcupine, the quills on it won't be hard. They actually don't harden up for a few days after birth, so it's basically completely defenseless. Mom does all the work. She cares for the baby, nurses the baby, shows it the ropes like climbing and things like that. But she does this for about 4 months, and then baby's on its own. But I mean, it's a spiny little defensive tank. It's not quite like leaving a human baby unattended. And one important thing to note is that researchers have found that mom porcupine doesn't really go out of her way to defend baby porcupine. I mean, she does all this stuff. She'll nurse it and show where food is and how to climb and all this stuff. But if a predator attacks them, mom doesn't usually go out of her way to defend it, because I mean, again, the quills on the baby are only soft for the first couple days. Once those harden up, it's a mini porcupine with 30,000 quills, so it can kind of defend itself. So mom doesn't really do a whole lot of defending. They're actually one of the longest lived rodents alive, with a lifespan of 20 to 30 years in captivity, but in the wild that's usually 10 or less because of various factors we'll get into more in a few minutes. As I said before, this animal is basically just a defensive tank. They don't move that fast. I think their max speed is like 2 miles per hour. They are very nearsighted. Eyesight's not that good. They're mostly nocturnal, so they spend a lot of the day sleeping up in the trees or in other dens they make, which are going to be in like rock crevices or caves or under logs or digging up under tree roots and things like that. And they can sleep kind of openly with this cavalier attitude up in a tree because there are very few predators in North America that really want to go out of their way to mess with a porcupine, let alone climbing up there to reach it. Their body is covered in tens of thousands of 2 to 4 inch quills designed to stab into attacking predators or whoever's skin and then pop out and stay there. As I'm sure everyone in North America has probably heard stories of dogs getting too close to porcupines and ending up with a face full of quills that they need to go to the vet for. And despite popular myths, porcupines cannot throw or shoot their quills. They're just modified hairs, so they're attached to the porcupine. And again, they're also not always a threat. If you were to pet a fully relaxed one with the quills down, if you're going down the body, you'd be absolutely fine. But if you were to pet one going against the body, or if the porcupine was feeling really threatened and had the quills out, then yeah, you're in trouble. Because the North American porcupine is such a lumpy, slow-moving, heavy, also very clumsy animal with very bad eyesight, it's not unheard of that they will fall out of trees, either when they're sleeping or when they're climbing and they lose their footing or a branch breaks, and when they fall to the ground, they can and have punctured themselves with their own quills. And these porcupines are actually the only New World porcupine species to not have a prehensile tail to help with climbing. So to counterbalance this, they've evolved to have an antibiotic on the end of their quill tips to prevent infection when they accidentally stab themselves, which is kind of a funny defense mechanism for their defense mechanism. And a less talked about part of the defense is their odor, which apparently reeks of very intense human BO, but they have a special patch of skin on their back and quills on it that are designed to help amplify this smell when they feel threatened. So these animals are solitary, smelly, and stabby. What they eat depends a lot on their range and the time of year, being mostly a mix of berries, twigs, roots, stems, general vegetation in the summer, and then conifer needles and bark in the winter. And despite their size, they're actually fairly picky with gatherings, it was found. There was a study done in the Catskill Mountains just south of me where they found that out of every 1,000 trees, porcupines would only feed from about 3 to 4 trees. As I said before, there are not many predators out there that want to really go through the huge hassle of trying to eat and kill a porcupine. There are much easier rodents out there to eat, like rats or bunnies, but there are still some that do it. And even then, for some of these ones that do successfully kill and eat the porcupine, they still will get sick and die from the infection from all of the quills that they get impaled with trying to kill the porcupine. Animals such as bears, wolverines, wolves, coyotes, even birds like golden eagles and gray horned owls have been observed going after porcupines, but their primary predators in North America are the fisher and the mountain lion. Fishers are a large mustelid that are very fast, very adept climbers, and are also very intelligent, and figured out a way to tire out and force a porcupine to the ground long enough to get the chance to attack its belly where it lacks quills. Mountain lions, on the other hand, prefer to sit on like just underneath the porcupine and try to hit it to make it fall to the ground so it can quickly jump down after it, deliver the killing blow, and successfully kill it without being impaled by too many quills. Porcupines are very common and are in no threat of ever going extinct, but they are seeing declines in certain parts of their southernmost range, so the government are putting protections in there. Their biggest threats are habitat loss, run-in with humans because they are viewed as pests because they eat a lot of vegetation, so they're not good for farmers, and they also kill trees. Hunting, especially by the very northern Canadian hunters, they're viewed as a big meat source, and also cars. Porcupines are a nocturnal, slow-moving animal, so that's already puts them in danger enough with cars, but on top of that, they also love the taste of salt, and they found in captivity they'll chew on plywood, which has salt in it. They'll love chewing on like keepers' gloves and shirts and stuff because they'll have salt from the sweat on it, but they also love to eat the salt that we just about all of North America use to de-ice roads. So it's like a giant beacon telling the porcupines to come lick the salt off the road, and that does not usually end well. Porcupines are surprisingly good swimmers, and that's because all their quills, since they're hollow, they're filled with air. It basically provides buoyancy, and it acts like a life jacket, letting them just swim right across the top of streams and rivers and stuff with no problem. Now, there are various porcupine species across Africa and Asia and North and South America, but to my knowledge, and I might be wrong, but from what I know, the North American porcupine is the only porcupine to have barbs on their quill, whereas you compare that to the African porcupine quill I'm showing you right now, it's much much longer. It's basically like a long, slender, hollow straw with a pointy end, but there's no barbs on it. This porcupine, it has these massive quills because it makes a big threat display to warn predators like leopards and stuff. And probably the cutest animal fact I have ever heard, baby porcupines are called porcupets. So that was my animal spotlight on the North American porcupine. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you watched at least most of the way through. I don't know if you watched all the way to the end, but I don't, it was kind of different. I was kind of worried if it would grab attention with me not having the porcupine right here. So hopefully a lot of you liked it, but comment down below if you'd like me to do another one of these and maybe an animal you'd like to see me get a bunch of footage on and do one of. But thank you to my amazing patrons supporting the channel. It means a lot to me. If you'd like to do that, link would be down below. You can do as low as $3 a month. Like the video if you learned something. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you later.